Once again, welcome. So, my background. So, I have a 15-year background, more or less, 15 to 20-year background in finance. Back in 2015, when Power BI appeared, I was working as a financial controller. At that time, I had to do a lot of reports, and Power BI changed the way I worked, right? Self-service helps a lot for those who want to have reports that are dynamic, that are timely, that have a single source of truth, and so on. So when I started to work with Power BI, I thought I have some skill sets. They weren't much, but maybe I can help the community. So I started to work in 2018. I started to work with the community and answering questions in the community. And back in 2018, I became a super user of Power BI community. Okay, that led me to the Microsoft MVP in 2019, and then in 2020, in the beginning of the pandemic, I thought I want to do something else. I want to give more to the community, and I started my blog, and I also started my presentations on Power BI. The first one was online, of course. I did a couple more online, and this led me to here. In 2021, someone reached out to me, and remember, I was finance, and he said, "Oh, I think you have a pretty good level of skill sets, so I think you would give a good expert in BI. Do you want to take that trip?" So I changed to development Power BI full-time, okay? So this was back in 2021 in DAX. So my transition, as I was saying, so my experience until 2021, finance, okay? Excel proficient. I worked a lot with Excel. If you work with finance people, they love Excel, right? If you take away pivot tables, you take away everything. Small-scale Power BI developer. I was developing Power BI only for my company, and only because I wanted to take the move from Excel to Power BI, and I gave the pressure. For those who work with the finance guys, you know we have a lot of tight schedules. We always say no, and it's our way or the highway, right? So I was the one that did that, especially when we are talking about IT developments and so on. We always want the rules to be strict. We always want to have everything in order, okay? So what happened? When I transitioned in 2021, my lack of experience in the area came out, okay? So I wasn't a Power BI developer full-time. I wasn't used to receiving the pressure in terms of getting a result ready with development, testing, and so on. So I did my Power BI reports and I did my own testing. And I was missing skills and experience, especially in development, in professional development, fast coding, debugging, documentation, version control, all of that. So I had the skills to understand the business and the people I was talking to, and that was an asset to the company I work, but I didn't have the experience in programming, okay? I knew all the DAX, I don't know, I'm not a Marco Russo, of course, but I know DAX, I know how to do things, but these skills are important, okay? So, why do external tools appear in this? So, external tools appear why? First of all, for those who work with Power BI desktop, you know it's slow. If you are working with a model with 200,000 rows, you can do it, no problem. But if you have, as I do, a model that has 2 tables with 4 million rows, 700 metrics, I don't know, 7 calculation items, with each one with 20 options. When we try to develop a measure in Power BI desktop, it takes forever to load, okay? Data modeling and analytics capabilities. There is a lot of setup around the data modeling that are not available through Power BI desktop. We have calculation items is one example, but we have lots of hidden features that we don't see that we can use in external tools. Debugging, We can do some debugging with the performance analyzer, but for that, we need to transpose that information to an external tool, like DAX Studio, okay? Improve knowledge of data sets and reports. We have tools for lots of things in terms of external tools. Collaboration capabilities. So how many of you have tried to work in the same Power BI file at the same time? How many of you succeeded to save your own without having someone made you lose yours? Okay, so in Excel you have, now with Office 365 you can do it, but with Power BI it's not possible, okay? And then we have the hidden gems, as I said, calculation items. We have the questions about all the formatting we can do at bulk. We can create a series of metrics in a single click, and I will show you that, okay? So what are the tools? So first of all, it's important to understand that they are free tools. Most of them, and some of them even, we call them tools, but they are only Power BI templates, okay? But they are very useful, okay? And we use them to extend and integrate with Power BI Desktop. They are created by the community. So most of them that you see, they are not done for profit, they are done to help others, okay? And then they are shared with everyone in a way that we just need to Google it, but we'll get to there. What are the categories that we have for these tools? So we have the semantic ones, so the ones that handle the data modeling, so like Tabular Editor, and the ones that will allow us to create DAX expressions, okay? We have the data analysis tools, so these ones connect to the model only with read-only capabilities and allow us to read the properties of that model and then to do, for example, a report with the relationship between columns. We had a customer that wanted to understand the impact of changing one column on the report, and we showed them that it impacted 100 metrics directly and indirectly. So without these external tools, we would not be able to do that. And then we have the miscellaneous, so we have tools for lots of things. So, and then we have the custom tools. You can do your own tools, and you can add them inside Power BI using a JSON that you can do. I don't know anything about JSON, as I said, finance experience, so my experience in SQL, in C, in JSON, it's almost nothing, okay? How can we get them? So we can get them. Power BI Tips as a tool that allows you to install all of them or almost all of them. SQL BI has several of them, DAX Studio, Bravo, Tabular Editor. Enterprise DNA also creates a lot of custom tools. And then if you search on Google, for sure you can find some external tools for Power BI that you may need, okay? So let's check. Let's try to check at least the top three, okay? Tabular Editor, ALM Toolkit, DAX Studio, and Power BI Helper. So I need to, just for you to understand, when I was working, I always heard about these tools. I used them to some extent, but I wasn't aware of the capabilities. And that's what I want to show you, that I went from zero to an intermediate or mediocre developer just because of these tools, okay? Tabular Editor, as I said, it was one that I use, is the one that I use more. And what does this do? This is an alternative for the SQL Server data tools. So we can author tabular models. We can have offline capabilities to edit our beam. For those that don't know what are beams, these are the files that save the metadata of our models, and that then we can edit as a JSON file, for example. And this allows for manipulation, management of measures, calculated columns. So first two were DAX, okay? So if you like to write DAX, you can use it. One disadvantage for those who are used, like me, to do it in Power BI Desktop, no IntelliSense, but after some time you get used to that and you start writing DAX in your mind and you put it on the on the Tabular Editor. We can create display folders, for example. We can create perspectives. Perspectives, if you don't know, is a way for you to hide information for certain users. So if you deploy a model with one perspective that only shows the sales table and the dates, that although the model can have everything, vendors, can have customers, and so on, the model will only show those two tables, okay? Translations is also useful. And we have automation by scripts, BPA rules, and for those that have premium, we have XLMA endpoint, okay? So we can edit our model directly online. So let's start by looking a little bit to Tabular Editor, okay? So I have over here a report. This report is connected to the database directly. So I did one thing that I think it's not a good practice, but that almost everyone does when we are developing on our own. That is to have the report with the database on the same file, okay? So this is connected to a database, and I did import, so it's in this it's in this report, it's in this PBX file, sorry. So it's an AdventureWorks table, so nothing more. But let's go to Tabular Editor. But before we go to a Tabular Editor, let me just tell you that when you install external tools, they go into this new tab that says External Tools, and you have all of them. You can even edit it, as I said, you can have custom columns, custom tools, and add them to this tab, okay? So if you click on Tabular Editor, what happens is that he opens up a new, I have some premium, some features enabled, okay? But as you can see, what we have over here at top is the connection to the local host, that is the report file, okay? So just looking at what we have, as you can see all our tables, we can open them, we can open the partitions over here and check our M code, and if you have SQL and so on, we see everything over here. We can have, on the shared expressions, I don't have any, but on the shared expressions, we have the staging tables that we normally don't enable the load, and all the parameter fields that we can also edit from here. And then we have, if we look at it, we can see these measures, columns, hierarchies, so we can choose what we want to see. But one thing that we can do, and that really helps us to take it to the next level, is the automation, okay? If you see, there is one tab over here that is advanced scripting. This tab allows you to write in C. I'm not an expert in C, but if you go online and search for Tabular Editor scripts for Power BI, you'll see lots of pages with scripts. You just need to copy paste them and just make some adjustments for your needs and do it, okay? So in this case, I have some scripts already saved, and I have it over here on the custom actions, and we have, for example, this sum measures. So these sum measures, basically, and then after we start using, we start to read the code, right? But the first time I used it, I just implemented it, and I was like, oh, it worked, right? Great. But if we look at this, we can see that it's picking up a variable that is a new measure, so it's creating a new measure. And for each, sorry, I forgot this first part. So for each selected column that we do in Tabular Editor, so we can do multiple columns at once, he creates a variable where he does an additional measure, okay, where he sums that value. So this is the sum of plus the name of the column that I choose. So this is the name part, okay, as you can see. Then we have the DAX that is written, okay. We are going to do the sum of our DAX object, and then the display folder if we want to have any. In the end, we also can define the formatting and any description you want. And there is also the option for you to read the column. So this is a simple script that I just copied over from online, okay? No changes. But this allows you to, for example, if you go over here to the sales order, if I pick up total due tax amount, sorry, let me just, total due, with control we can do tax amount also. let's just do this too. If I run this script, as you can see now, I have over here 2 parts. So these two are the measures. So as you saw, we selected the sum of, and then the name of the table tax amount. And the other one is sum of total due. And at the same time, he created the measures. The question mark is because we still didn't save it, and he still haven't checked the DAX, okay? And immediately, if you look at the options that we have, what happens to these columns is that they were immediately hidden. Let me just check over here for the option. Where is it? Hidden. So, okay, not sure. Over here. It's over here. So, immediately did it hidden equals true. So, he hid the base column from our report. So, pretty easy, right? Now we just have to save. When we save this, as you can see, the question mark disappeared, okay? We go back to our report. Now if I search sum of, I have my 2 measures, and I can now add them wherever I need, okay? So pretty easy. 2 clicks or 3, nothing to do, just connect to the model, run the script, okay? But now let's look at this. Oh, I messed up. I should have changed my script and write, it's not sum of, I need to write something else, right? So let's go back to Tabular Editor. If you select these 2, right click, you have one option that is batch rename. So over here you can search what you want. In this case, we want to search sum of, and you want to write total, and just do OK, and we just change the name of 2 metrics, okay? Once again, pretty easy, pretty simple, nothing to do. One of the recurrent requests that we have while developing, at least I usually have that question for me, because someone tells us, oh, we want to change this specific metric. Okay, what is the new calculation? And they say, oh, instead of a sum, we need to do a divide and then multiply whatever is the calculation. What we don't see sometimes is that when we change that measure, we are impacting other metrics. And what happens? Most of the time, people don't know what are the impacts. What we do? Easy, very easy. We go to the report, sorry. Over here, this broke. Why? Because I saved. Now the measures don't exist anymore. And now I don't have sum of, I have total, okay? So I can just re-put. So, but as I was saying, how can we get in Power BI Desktop the dependencies of measures? You say, that's easy. You just go to the last metric, and in this case, if I go to margin, if you go to the last metric, you can see, oh, this comes from total sales. So let's go to total sales. So if I go to total sales, I can see if this has any other. Okay, so this is just a simple sum, nothing to do. But we also have total cost, no problem. Okay, so it's easy. So, but if we go to Tabular Editor, and if I search for the margin, we have a search parameter that is very easy to use. We have an option that is show dependencies. And in this case, you can see that I have the margin that then drills down to margin percentage, and then drills down to difference of margin and to margin title, okay? In this case, I want the previous ones, okay? Also, we can do just by clicking over here on the show objects on which margin depends, and we can see that these 2 are over here. And then you can just, if you clear the find over here, you can just double click this. Sorry. And as you can see, now I'm in total sales. Let me just go to the expression. And if I go over here, I have the cost. So we can easily go from one to the other. Again, I continue on the margin dependencies, but I can see all my metrics in one go, okay? So pretty easy to set up. Okay, one additional thing. This works for columns. This works for measures, so we can create calculated columns and measures. At the beginning of the session, we were talking about, but I want to copy-paste things. I want to use 2 files at once, for example. I want to have people collaborating. Or even worse, I did all my changes in one file. That was version 1 that I saved somewhere, I don't know where, but was the one that was published, right? And then I have a new file. And I'm like, so how can I just do this online? How can I just update my file? Okay? We have 2 options. I'm going to show you both. The first one is using Tabular Editor. The second one, we will use ALM Toolkit, okay? But for the first one, I have over here another report. So this is the same report, okay? I have some changes because I want to show that in ALM Toolkit. But this is the same database, doesn't have all the measures, doesn't have all the columns. I just did some changes. So in this case, I will open this Tabular Editor over here. So now I have both of them. Let me just put one to the left, and let me just pick up the other one to the right. Okay, so as you can see now, over here on the left, I have the one that I was presenting right now, and on the right, I have the clean AdventureWorks screen, okay? So in this case, I want to go over here, and if you look at this, and if you search for margin, you can see there is no margin, right? So let me just do this. So let's go over here, Control C. We go to our model. Let me just reopen this because it's not loading the tables. Okay, yeah, now it's working. So let's put it again to the side. Okay, so we go to our tables. We just go to sales order and just do, no need to open, okay, but just do Control V. It's there. Now, if I do save, now we go to the next level of Tabular Editor. So I can copy paste, but it does the next step, that is debugging. So how many of you had an error on one metric that then replicated throughout, I don't know how many? And how many of you lost, I don't know how many times, just go one by one, one by one. Over here, we only have one error, but let me just copy over just 2 more, okay? Let me just do this. If we do this, this one doesn't give any errors, okay, but we have the main metric that is giving error. Let me just save this. When I save this, as you saw, the other 2 that didn't have any errors now have errors, okay? What did we do previously? We went to Power BI, it's this version, and we check which ones were with the errors, and we're like opening every table, right? We didn't open every table to check where is this code, right? Okay. We go to Tabular Editor. If you look at the bottom over here, you see there is 3 errors, okay? When you go over here, you can just click and see what are the errors, where are they coming from, and how are they dependent on several columns, okay? In this case, I can see that in margin and in margin percentage, the total sales cannot be determined, okay? This means that, and then he completes the explanation. If you click on over here, you can see the rest of the explanation, much clearer than you see sometimes in Power BI Desktop. You can see that the value does not exist, cannot be determined. Either the column doesn't exist or there is no current row for this column, okay? So coming from here, we can really just, we can then just go over here. Sorry, let's go to the top one. If we double click, we go to that specific column. In this case, we know that we need to pick up those two measures, of course. So let's just go to the AdventureWorks, search for the total. So we want the sales and the costs. Control C, just paste it over, save. Okay. Over here, we still have an error. I know why this error is happening. Once again, in this case, this column, if we go to the error of this column, it's once again is that we don't have this this column on the sales order detail. Okay, so debugging is also made easier, and for those that weren't IT developers like me, it's pretty handy. Okay, so. Just to finish up on Tabular Editor, there is also another thing. I don't know if all of you have heard about BPA, Best Practice Analysis. So it's some rules that you can code in Tabular Editor and that analyzes our model and checks whatever you want. So you can check if the date format is correct. You can check if you have a date table. You can check if the MDX is activated or not. You can do a lot of things. If you go online and you search for best practice analysis, you can download a copy of one of the JSON's files and just paste it in. There is also lots of explanations on how to do that. We just simply go over here to the manage BPA rules. We just add them, select the file, and it's copy-paste. But over here, I already have that file loaded, okay? And if I run this, and let me just run this on my report, not on my... If we go over here, and we run the best practice, as you can see, I have a lot of errors, okay? On purpose, I didn't went to that, to search to see this. But as you can see, we have do not use floating points, set is available, MDX, consider a star schema. So as you can see, he even checks if you have a star schema or not. So all of this, again, this is best practice, not golden rules, okay? You can use them or not. Your model will work in the same way. As you can see, for example, we have over here one that is DAX expression, use the divide function, okay? Let's see this one, for example. So if I go over here and I do go to object, okay, let me just reduce this. Sorry, go to object. Over here I have the filter. When I have the filter, everything gets, and as you can see, what I did in this metric was basically to make a division of a random number by 100. So we should use a divide. In this case, I didn't write any code to fix this, but we have some of them where you can have those type of interaction. Then let me just check where is the one about the date format. If you go over here to this one, let's just go to this object, okay? So what it's saying is that my date format is not in the string that we want, okay? So if I go to this specific column, if we look at the format, it's in a long date, okay? But as I said, we can automate this. So you can see that at the top we have a little screwdriver. We can select all of them and just run this. When we run this, the error disappears. If we go back to our column that was already here, as you can see, immediately, now we have European format, okay? So easy, nothing to worry about. If you forgot about the formattings or whatever, you can automate this and your models can go online without any issues, okay? So we just save this. Everything gets passed through the Power BI desktop and our file is saved, okay? Next step, next tool. So ALM Toolkit. What can we do? So this tool, I started to work with this, I think, 6 months ago, when a colleague of mine showed us that he did Power BI uploads through ALM Toolkit to development environment. And we're like, okay, this is useful for us. Why? Because it allows database compare. And he goes through every metadata of your BIM file, and he compares that if you have the dates in the correct format, if you don't have them, if you remove a column or a measure, and you can automatically upload those changes into the other file. Be aware that in some cases there are things that are not supported. For example, adding columns from one PBX file to the other you need to do it from Tabular Editor because on ALM Toolkit you cannot do it, but you can do it directly. If you have freemium, you can do it to the service. And then when you refresh the model, the new column is there, okay? You can have easy deployment. As I said, you can deploy directly to the service if you have premium. Source control integration, reuse definitions, and self-service. Over here, I'm just showing you the first part, that is the database compare, and how we can update two different models, okay? Just the tip of the iceberg. But it's a very useful tool, especially when you want to have, as I said, two persons working at the same time. And I already told you, I have a model with 700 metrics. It's crazy. So, and sometimes the customers ask for us to change that model. One metric for one part of the business, another metric for the other one. What do? We have two developers. So what can we do? So we just do a copy, and then using this tool, we merge them together, okay? So let's go to ALM Toolkit. Going back to our report, sorry. Going back to our report, so if we go once again, external tools, ALM Toolkit. As before, the first thing it does, it's to open the file that we have, okay? And this is very handy when you do the connection through Power BI Desktop, because it automatically connects to your report. But you can do this manually, okay? No problem. You can connect to a data set. You can connect to Power BI Desktop. You have to have the file open, but you can connect it, or you can connect to a file, okay? The top one is the source. In this case, is my report. The target is my second file. In this case, we are going again to Power BI Desktop, but I'm going to the AdventureWorks clean, okay? If I do OK over here, I now get this comparison. First part, AdventureWorks. Second part, report. Second part, clean, okay? Always left to right. Be careful. I already did this lots of times that I pick up the second one and just hit ALM Toolkit, and then I'm like, why did this disappear? This was supposed to be appearing. So be careful. Sometimes when we have multiple files open, it happens, right? But over here, as you can see, there is some options that are already highlighted that you want to skip. These ones, and you can see it in detail in the documentation. But when he finds that two columns, that the metadata is equal, he does a skip. Why? He does not need to publish that again. This is very helpful, because if you want to deploy something new to your report, it's not going to make a full deployment. It's just going to deploy that metric. It's just going to deploy that specific column to that table, okay? If you are doing it with premium, as I said, if you are doing to other Power BI report, it will tell you that you will not be able to create those columns, okay? If you do hide and skip objects with same definition, the list is much smaller, as you can see. And now we can choose what we want to do, okay? Over here, we have a calendar table that is created on my report, but is missing on my target. Okay, so these ones that are highlighted in gray are the ones that are going to be created or deleted. Okay, these ones are pretty easy to analyze. But let's focus on the ones that are the same, okay? For example, this one. As you can see, it gets highlighted with a comparison. We can directly go over here. And we can see in this case that, do you remember what we did in Tabular Editor? Change the format of the date. So over here, is saying, okay, there is a change in the format. We can select two options. We can update or we can skip. This is also very handy because, as I said, if you have two developers at the same time, one is developing metric A, the other one metric B, and they can say, okay, let's copy over this, but do not delete the new metric, right? Because as I said, when we have on the left, is saying that this margin is not on the target, okay? Sorry, this margin is not on the source. So what he's going to do is going to delete. Why? Because we want to have things merged. So in this case, we can skip it if we want, okay? Or we can update, so pretty easy. If we do a validation, it will give you a lot of errors. As I said, some of these things are not supported connecting through to PBIX files, okay? But they are supported to Premium, okay? Depending then on the connection you have, if you are using SQL, if you are using Azure, or so on. But most of them are supported to the Premium because it's using XLMA endpoint, okay? So when you do this, a new button appears, and you can just update this. You just wait a little bit, depending on the size of the model, of course. It just says that the metadata was deployed successfully. Sorry. As you can see, it will ask me if I want to compare. And if we do again the hide and skip objects, as you can see, now the only things that remained over here are the changes about the tables. Okay. Everything else was updated. Okay. Once again, not supported. If you see, there is also a relationship over here that is highlighting that I have on one side and I don't have on the other. So he updates, he gets all the metadata. One good thing about all of this is that we can have in the options, we have several options. So to include the perspectives, cultures, include roles. I don't know how many of you have issues updating roles, but this makes that. And in the end of this, we have two options that are really interesting and maybe important. The first one is the retain partitions. So I don't know if you are aware, but for those that have incremental refresh, if you do a change on your table, you can change all your meshes, but if you do a change on your table, you need to rerun the partitions for the incremental. You need to do a full refresh, okay? You can do it through ALM Toolkit, activate that option so that when you do the next refresh, it updates all the partitions. And the second one is this over here. That is when he uploads this report to the service, mainly this works in the service, of course, is that you can have the processing options that you have in SQL Server, okay? Recalc, full refresh, and so on. If you go over here, as you can see, so this one's recalc, default, do not process, and full, okay? So you can select all of this and have your model working properly. So just for you to be aware, usually when I have a full incremental, I do a do not process because otherwise this will do all the work on my side, and I want it to do it on the server side, right? So I put it on the service, and then I go there and do the refresh. Otherwise, he will go to the database and do all those refreshes that we can do manually, okay? Okay, so this was the second tool that we can do the update from one to the other. And if you go, again, if we go back to our AdventureWorks clean, you can see that now we have more measures on our model. So everything is working as we wanted. And if you go to the dates column, to the date columns, hopefully the date columns, it was not this one, I think it was, yeah, this one did not pass through because we are talking about PBX files, but everything was updated as you saw. So last part, we have 10 minutes, but we can still do another tool. So DAX Studio. So DAX Studio, how many of you have issues about performance of metrics, of calculation, and so on? All of you, right? How many of you use Performance Analyzer? How many of you do know how to read that without any other tools? Join the club. So DAX Studio allows you to perform DAX queries in Power BI Designer, Power Pivot for Excel, and Analysis Service, so it's available. You can do object browsing, you can do query and editing, we can do formula and measure editing, we can do syntax highlighting and so on, query breakdowns. But we have some other options like export capabilities, row level security view as, so Usually we do this in desktop, but we can do this also in DAX Studio. So just select the role that we want, and the result will be returned in the role level security. Benchmarking, analyzing Excel, and once again, connection to the service. What I usually use this is for two reasons. First of all, read the performance analyzer. But the second one is the one that I do the most, is to write complex DAX measures. Why? Because I can understand if those metrics are burning out our service engine or they are burning out our storage engine, okay? In this case, let's go back to our model. Let's open up DAX Studio. I already have saved, I'm not writing any DAX. I stole this calculation from a video for Marco Russo, okay? Just a disclaimer, but it was easier. The performance levels are not that different, okay? But you will understand where we want to achieve the result. So I'm just uploading over here a query that I have just written. So over here in this query, we have two things. So the first one is a slow measure, is the one that we are using some columns that we don't need, okay? So we are calculating the max date, the minimum date. We are doing a summarize with a distinct count. For those that don't know, summarize and distinct counts probably will break down all your performance. So be careful. The video is all about that, where I stole this formula, okay? And we are doing the calculations, okay? In the end, I have over here the evaluate, so the return. That is basically a summarize of the previous query, and where I do the slow measure, okay? Let's connect over here the server timings. And when we connect the server timings, we can see exactly how long does it take to run this, okay? If I run this, the query started, as you can see, now it's completed, okay? We have the results, okay? So nothing fancy, but let's look at our server timings, okay? So over here, as you can see, it took 2,600 milliseconds, so 2 seconds is not a big deal in terms of models, but the model is small. And we have 6 storage engine queries, okay? Let's just clear cache. And now let's just do the following. Let's comment this. You can also do one good thing, both in Tabular Editor and in DAX Studio, that is to format the DAX. I don't know how many of you like to format DAX. I hate it, but it's so easy just to click a button, have a script to do that, okay? But again, there are several tools in the available that do exactly that. Okay, so let's just take out this and comment. Now I have the fast measure. So the fast measure, it's similar to the other one. We took out the columns that we don't need, so the minimum and the max. And over here, sorry, I just deleted everything. Sorry. And over here, we are making the calculation a little bit differently, okay? So let's change this to fast measure. Hopefully I didn't do anything. Let me just clear cache again. Okay. Define, okay. We have the define, we have the measure. Let me just check where did I mess up. Okay. Let me just re-upload. Live presentations, we have, this happens, right? Wait, sorry, just lost the connection. So, sorry, DAX Studio. Okay, let me just re-upload that one. So if you remember, it was 2,000 milliseconds, okay? So now let's just comment this, and we need to uncomment this. Okay, let's do fast measure and run this. We need to server timings, okay? And now let's run. As you can, it was, well, don't know if you saw it was very fast. So as you can see now, we are talking about 38 milliseconds, okay? And you can tell me, oh, but those are two different metrics. No, yes, they are, but let's look at the results. So let's pick up all of them, okay? Let's pick up what we have over here. Let's pick up also our slow measure. And let's do the difference between the fast and the slow. If everything goes properly, we should have zeros on our calculations. Let's run this. This will take longer, of course, because it's picking up both. As you can see, 2.8 Ks of milliseconds. The results, everything is zero, so the metrics are the same. So what I just did, compare two different logics to see which one is faster, which one uses more capabilities from the engine, from the storage engine, or from the storage engine, or from the yeah, sorry. It's the nerves sometimes get to us. But as you can see, pretty handy. And you can even check what are the queries that we use. I did this with two metrics that I already written, but if you copy paste the questions, the information from the performance analyzer, you get all of this, okay? Okay, so our time is almost ending, but let's see what more is out there. So my personal options, okay? Hot swap connections. So have you ever had data sets separated from reports that you wanted to see the changes on the report immediately without deploying it to production or to the dev environment? So without swap connection, you can pick up a report that is connected with a live connection to a data set, do the remove connection. When you open it up, you can connect to your live model, to your model that you have as I was opening my Power BI desktop, to that local host. Do all your measures, and you see the immediate result on your report. Then you just do the same thing again, the other way around. Just reconnect to the service and upload it using the normal tools or ALM Toolkit, wherever you want. Bravo is a good tool also from SQL BI. It's for small models. You can create automatically calendar tables. You can format DAX and so on. It's like a DAX Studio, but in a smaller scale. Okay, you cannot do queries on DAX. Okay, it's not the same tool, but it helps you as a small developer to put your model in a better way. Okay. Power BI Helper and Field Finder. These are two tools. One is a tool. The other one is a pivot file. Personally, I use Power BI Helper. I used to use Power BI Helper. Now I'm using Field Finder. Why? Because Field Finder has one thing that Power BI Helper doesn't have. We can see even the fields that are being used in the filter pane and in the drill through. Okay, so we can search everything, and it's a PBX file, so you can even do your own report. Okay. But these are my personal favorites, okay? So these are my contacts. So as I said, I work on DevScope. I have a blog, so feel free to reach out, okay? Feedback on this session is appreciated. Thank you all. And if you have any questions, please tell me.